Yeah, I'm a little bit late. Give me a few minutes here. Okay. Sorry that I'm a little bit late. I had some company. I have some company. I lost track of the time. I just want to find the verse, today's verse. I'm almost there. Okay, reading from the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta, chapter 5, text 20. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Śrī Parīkṣit uvāca. Iti pragāyan rasanāṁ munir nijām. Aśikṣayan mādhava-kīrti-lampaṭām. Aho pravṛttāsi mahattva-varṇane. Prabhor apīti sva-radair vidaśya. Śrī Parīkṣit said, while singing enthusiastically in this way, the sage instructed his own tongue, which was greedy to chant the glories of Lord Mādhava. Oh, you are too busy talking about the greatness of our master. To stop that tongue, he then seized it with his teeth. In jest, Narada chastised his tongue for misbehaving. His tongue was sincerely relishing the pleasure of glorifying the moon born from the ocean of the Madhu dynasty. But there was little hope to accomplish much by this attempt. Brahma with his 4 tongues and Ananta with his thousands had failed to fully describe the glories of Sri Madhava. How then could Narada, one insignificant tongue, be so impudent as to try? Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Taksur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So greetings from Govardhan. I have an audience today. Paramananda and Kana. In my ashram in Govardhan, Connie, you know what I thought I'd name the ashram? The Govardhan Hilton. Yeah. Yeah, I'm good at branding. I told you that. It's like my thing. Yeah, and so nice. We had such a wonderful, what a wonderful retreat we had. Yeah, the last day going to Barsana with our hearts open, because our hearts, and this was discussed on the retreat, are what we are, our hearts. We're Ashraya and Vishaya. God is the object of love, the beloved, we're the subject of love, the lover. And I made that point that God's pleasure is Ladini Shakti, the essence of which is Krishna Prema, love of Krishna. That's God's pleasure, but where does that pleasure come from? Love comes from outside yourself. So God, there's nothing outside of God, but within God, there has to be something outside of him, and that's us. And what is our purpose? Our purpose is to give love. That's the ultimate reality, is love. Not in a sentimental way, but in a deep philosophical way. Rasa vai saha. He is that love. That's what the ultimate reality is. It's love. And that's what Vyasadeva saw when he went into trance before he wrote the Bhagavatam. When his guru told him he hadn't sufficiently glorified Krishna. And then there's that verse I quoted many times, Bhakti Yogena Manasi. He engaged his mind in Bhakti Yoga. Samyak Pranayate Malay, without any distraction. Apashyat Purisham Purnam, and then he saw God, Mayat Chitat Apasayam, and his energy is under his control. But he also saw the internal potency. So what he saw is the ultimate reality is God exchanging with his energies, and we're part of that. And that's ultimately the 10th canto. God's exchanging with his energies for the purpose of love. So that's our purpose. And I think my experience is, Bhurijan Prabhu said, we don't come to the holy Dham so that we can appreciate the Dham, but we come because the people are. And I find that here. I find within Prabhupada's mission, not outside, but also outside, I find people who've really have cultivated Krishna consciousness in such a deep way. And they have that love in their heart. And to exchange with them, the dati pritagrinati, guyamayachi prichati, bhunte bhovyate chava, the loving exchanges of inquiring and explaining and giving and accepting gifts and giving prasadam and sharing prasadam. It's conduits to hearts. We're here to fill our hearts with that love. And only that love, prema pumartha mahan, artha, the value, the goal, the maha goal, is prema, is to have love. We all know that. That's what we're seeking. There's no person that can be happy with things without love. But a person can be happy with love without things. So we know that. But people don't know that that's an ultimate reality that we can have. So here it's just so wonderful. And then I'm facing Govardhan Hill right now. And an abode of love. And and that's what this Rasa Shastra is. Rasa Shastra means that everything is an expression of love. And that by hearing it, you will appreciate it, and that same love will come to your heart. So, and therefore, I'm just going to say something else because Pramananda is here. We're just talking. Is my godbrother Rabindra Swarup Prabhu, who lived upstate New York, so many of you may know him. I was just reflecting, he's ill. And it's coming by Krishna to make an arrangement to bring him to Mayapur to spend the rest of his life. In other words, there's no more worries. It's like nothing to worry about now, right? We don't know where we'll wind up in what situation. He knows, him and his wife. They'll be in Mayapur. Daryadam, the land of magnanimity. And then I was reflecting with Paramananda, it's like, it's not for everyone because not everybody can have that level of faith. It's very extraordinary to have that level of faith. And what is faith? Faith, one level of faith is that by serving Krishna, everything will be taken care of. But most people can't live on that level because they're not Brahminical. One time I asked some sadhu about Varnashram. He said, a Brahmin has complete faith. Complete faith. And therefore, a Brahmin, he doesn't have a job. He just depends on Krishna. He teaches, he doesn't ask for money. He has complete faith. A Kshatriya has a little less faith. A Kshatriya has to have some land. Otherwise, he can't be peaceful. A Vaishya has less faith. He has to cheat. And a Sudra, he has to have a master. Otherwise, he's not secure. So Rabindra Swarup Prabhu was a perfect Brahmin. He had complete faith. His whole life in devotional service, complete faith. It cannot be imitated. But you see what the result is at the end. I'm not suggesting we don't make retirement funds and we don't make plans, but I'm just pointing out at the end, he'll be in Mayapur with a nice place to stay and someone to take care of him. Krishna reciprocates with his devotees. So it's a nice example to see and to reflect on. One time they asked Rabindra Swarup Prabhu, why don't you take sannyas? He says, because I want to live a renounced life. He had great one-liners. So renounced he lived, so simple he lived, so dependent on Krishna. And Krishna is God, and that's what it means. That's faith. He protects his devotees. That's faith. He maintains his devotees. So just reflecting on that. Now here in the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta, it really, when I'm reflecting on the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta, my real meditation and its really appreciation is this genius of Sanatana Goswami, because I gave that seminar in Puri, the mission of Sri Chaitanya, and the genius of Sanatana Goswami in presenting it. And as I'm reading it, I'm just seeing in so many ways the genius of his communicative skills, the genius of his realization. And what's happening now, and I explained this before, is there's an objective, and it's the same Bhagavatam, that we should hear the truth and we should understand it as the truth. Hearing something doesn't mean understanding it. hearing those things doesn't mean that we're perceiving it. It requires the mind. And we have to, I mentioned before, there are three factors. To actually perceive something, you have to understand it. You have to be attentive to it. You have to understand it. You have to have the right attitude towards it. So the Bhagavatam fixes you up so that when you hear about the highest truth, you can understand it. You can actually perceive it when you hear it. Why can you perceive it? Because you can understand it. I gave an example, like because maybe they haven't heard this before, that if you take a pair of cartels to the North Pole, you show an Eskimo, a group of Eskimos, they'll start laughing and they'll say, "Fool, why does he have earmuffs that are metal?" So is he perceiving a musical instrument if he's not understanding it? And the right attitude towards it, right? Look at the attitudes. You cop an attitude, man. You have an attitude, just like prejudice, right? If you have an attitude of hate towards a particular group of people, are you able to perceive the individual? We can see it's so amazing that prejudice is growing in the world today rather than getting less. As more and more it's become fashionable to judge people by the class that they're in, by their particular external identity. So then do you understand the person if you prejudge them by something external, by their race or by their gender? Do you actually perceive them? So all these prejudices are there, and then you hear the Bhagavatam, and it wants you, because what's going to be presented is this shape of devotion that's considered the highest, that has two conceptions of it, which are expressions of love, which in the world are the expressions of passion and ignorance, because the highest love of Srimati Radharani is going to be explained as something at least externally looking erotic and externally looking despondent. But it's actually born from the highest love. So the Bhagavatam, it's so nicely constructed, and again, I'm making the same point here. I'm going to get into the verse today, but that the Bhagavatam is more a message than the story. Because we say Prabhupada's purports of the Bhagavatam, but he makes it contemporary. He makes us understand. So the real Bhagavatam is the message, not particularly the story. Just like you give a Bhagavatam class, you may tell a contemporary story to illustrate the point. But what are you doing? You're communicating the Bhagavatam. We know the Bhagavatam began in 4 verses, and then it was expanded. So the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta, this is his genius. It's the genius it's the genius of Maharaj Parīkṣit when his mother comes at the end of his life and says, "Please summarize what you learned." So he couldn't put it in the same shape because he heard it in 7 days. So he had to put it in maybe a half a day. So he had to give the same thing, but in a condensed form. Yeah. And not only in a condensed form, what the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta is, it's not only the Bhagavatam, but it's the depth of realization of the conclusion of the Bhagavatam. Because Radharani's name is not even mentioned. It's only mentioned indirectly. Aniya radito nunam bhagavan harir ishvara. So somehow, and this is Lord Chaitanya's mission, because what is Sanatana Goswami asked to do? He's asked to give samarpiyatam unatoj vala rasam. He's supposed to give unatoj vala rasam, the ujvala ras. Ujvala means brilliant. This relationship of this love of Srimati Radharani for Krishna, swabhakti swayam. He's supposed to give Lord Chaitanya's swabhakti swayam, his own beautiful love. That's what Lord Chaitanya wants to give to the world. His love. And what is his love? His love is Krishna taking the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to relish his own form and his ecstatic love and give that experience to the world. And that's really the ultimate conclusion of the Bhagavatam. And that's the conclusion of the Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta. And a frame of reference has to be developed to be able to understand it. And it's not our mundane frame of reference where eroticism is only born out of lust and despondency is only born out of ignorance. It's a frame of reference where the romantic feelings are born simply for the pleasure of Krishna. There's not a tinge of desire for oneself. And the feelings of despondency are born out of a deep love for Krishna. And somehow they're beyond duality. They're also ecstatic love. So we have to see devotion in so many different shapes of intimacy. We have to become professors of devotion. And now we have to become professors of devotion. We have to become relishers of devotion. So that when we actually come to the ultimate realization, we immediately see devotion, because that's what our attraction is for. So we immediately see devotion. We immediately understand devotion. We immediately feel devotion. And Sanatana Goswami, he has to give us that frame of reference, and this is the book to do it. And one way we see it is in the personality of Narada himself. He's enthusiastic. He knows that the most important thing is sadhu sanga. That's the most important thing in devotional service. Everything else is based on sadhu sanga. The holy name is based on sadhu sanga. The holy dham is based on sadhu sanga. Worship of the deities is based on sadhu sanga. Hearing the Bhagavatam is based on sadhu sanga. So we see Narada through the whole book giving us this key. Search for sadhu sanga. Be enthusiastic for sadhu sanga. And look how enthusiastic he is. Every time he hears about a devotee, he flies there in ecstasy. And we see he has enthusiasm. He has faith, because faith is the engine of our spiritual direction. Faith is our trust in our objective, but Shraddha is faith in the spiritual objective as the highest manifestation of the soul. And we see how that drives one. And that's what an advanced devotee is. They're seeking sadhu sanga. Actually, I'm so happy here in Govardhan. I have one regret, that I decided to leave in March. If I hadn't made any plans, I'd stay here longer. I wouldn't go to Colombia. I wouldn't go. I would just stay here a little bit longer. get my air conditioner fixed and stay. Sadhu Sanga, Sarva Shastra Hoy, Lava Matra, Sadhu Sanga, Lava Matra, Sadhu Sanga, Sarva Siddhi Hoy. Just some association with sadhus and the gems of their realizations. They've saw something, they've experienced something, they can communicate it to you. So this, I think the first thing that we're learning in this particular story is Narada. He wants that because that's where you can get it. And he's humble. He's not searching to dominate the world. He's searching to serve the world, beginning with the sadhus. His faith is different than ours. Our faith is to control and enjoy. His faith is to glorify and serve. This Icha Dvesha Samutena, these material qualities, desire and hate. So we see, he's enthusiastic, it's due to his faith, and he has absolutely no envy. And every single person he goes to has the same qualities. No matter what shape bhakti is in, there's faith, there's enthusiasm, and there's no envy. And there's anya bilashita shunyam jnana karma jnanavritam anukulyena krishnanu shilanam bhakta uttama anya bilashita shunyam. I'll tell now a confidential story. It's very confidential, but it's not going to be confidential after now. Tamal Krishna Maharaj, when he was in Mumbai, he was fighting for Prabhupada because Prabhupada's older son sued for ISKCON because the Indian law is that the property of the father belongs to the son, with one exception, if the father took sannyas. But the lawyer whom I met, and I went to his house with Prabhupada when Prabhupada did a program at this lawyer's house. I went there. He screwed up the document. So to prove that Prabhupada took sannyas, you had to get the testimony of the person who performed the fire yagya when Prabhupada took sannyas. Who was that? Narayan Maharaj. So Narayan Maharaj was kind enough to go to Mumbai for a month and go to the courts. And I always tell this story, and he was watching Tamal Krishna Maharaj on the stand, fighting for Prabhupada. You can imagine how tough it is to cross-examine Tamal Krishna Maharaj. And then I told this story that during worship of the deities, Tamal Krishna Maharaj would only be staying in front of Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman. Some of you heard this story, but if you haven't. And Narayan Maharaj, of course, was, Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta, Radha Rasa Bihari. So he couldn't understand why Tamal Krishna Maharaj was in front of Radha Rasa Bihari, Sita Ram. So he says, why are you worshiping Ram? Tamal Krishna Maharaj says, I'm not worshiping Ram. He says, you're in front of the deities. He says, I'm not worshiping Ram. I'm worshiping the weapons of Ram. In the court case. And then the Narayan Maharaj said, I learned Buddhism from Tamal Krishna Maharaj. But anyway, Tamal Krishna Maharaj was there, so he's getting association with Narayan Maharaj. He was getting association with Narayan Maharaj. So he was writing a book on Brahma Samhita. So he would go every day and he would discuss with Narayan Maharaj. So when Tamal Krishna Maharaj came back to Vrindavan, he told us it was great. I was meeting with Narayan Maharaj and we were discussing, Shastra like this. So me and Borijan said, well, why don't we go? And at that time, Narayan Maharaj was, there's no one there, all right? So I went with Borijan. At that time, he didn't speak English. So we said, can you teach us something? So he said, what? We said, Jaiva Dharma. We didn't even know what the book was. We heard it's cool. And he looked at us and he said, so you want to understand Raganuga Bhakti? Anya bilashita shunyam. Anya bilashita shunyam. No desires. No other desire. Anya bilashita shunyam. Jnana karma jnanavritam. No other desire. Not covered by karma or gyan. Anukulyena Krishna anu shilana. And the prime characteristic, anukulyena. Favorable. You want to do what's pleasing to God. Krishna anu shilana. And therefore your activities, anu shilana. Shilana means your activities, your mind, your body, your words. Ihalyasya harer dasye karmana manasa gira nikolastu avaptasu jivan muktas uchate. Ihalyasya harer bhaktiya karmana manasa, karmana your work, manasa your mind, gira your words. Favorable for Krishna. We said, no. We just wanted to study Jaiva Dharma. He said, okay, come back on Tuesday. He said, chapter 23, Raspachar. Anya bilashita shunyam. So these characteristics, and isn't that love? What Jiva Goswami says is that happiness is when you find the happiness in another. That's the faith of the spiritual world. That's the faith of the spiritual world. The faith of the material world is to be the center. The faith of the spiritual world is to serve the center. And really have faith in that. Really have faith that that's what happiness is. So Narad is on his search, and Hanuman points to the Pandavas because Hanuman is his service of Hanuman, but he points to the Pandavas because they have a more intimate relationship. They have a more intimate relationship with God. Very close, like friends and helpers and so many things. So he's so enthusiastic. And he goes to that assembly, and Yudhisthira is in the assembly. He's the king, and they're making plans how to bring Krishna back to Hastinapur. That's what the assembly is, how to bring Krishna back to Hastinapur. And then they see Narada and they want to worship him, but Narada grabs their paraphernalia from them for the worship, begins to worship them. And then Narada, he's glorifying them because Krishna lived with them. And Krishna is the fullest revelation of God. I make this, a person is his love, which is like you're a son, you're a father, there's different relation. That's who you are, right? Right, you're a father, right? These are the things that really are your friend to Raghunath, your father to Kana. This is who you are. And it can't be understood unless a person has a relationship with you. They don't know that part of you. Like he knows that part of you, and your friends know that part of you. Your fans don't. Fans just go, yay, no service, just yay. So, but that full revelation is Krishna. And then Narada begins to glorify them as the topmost recipient of God's mercy, because God is there revealing himself in so many intimate ways that they're experiencing. So they're experiencing more of God. They're experiencing more of God's love. Even though everybody's satisfied with their relationship. And he keeps on, he goes spontaneous. He just thought, because it's such a pleasure. There's no difference between your level of bhakti and your desire to glorify Krishna. And there's no difference between your bhakti and your glorification of Krishna. So as one has bhakti, it's being expressed in kirtan always. So he's glorifying and glorifying, and he's glorifying Krishna. And this is also a genius of his technique, because what's going to happen now, he's glorifying Krishna because they have Krishna, such a full revelation of God, who's showing his friendship to them and showing his intimate side to them. And their love is so deep and so forceful that Krishna becomes inspired to serve them, which means become their servant. Krishna becomes controlled by them, and that's such a glory, because it means that Krishna wants to serve these devotees in an intimate way. So he's just going on and on and on. And what's brilliant, what's how the story goes, is it's going to happen here. Narada is just telling his tongue, stop. It's almost, he can't, it's spontaneous. When it's spontaneous, it means it's harder to stop, because it's not from the intellect, it's just completely from the heart pouring out. It's like an addict. This is not good for me, so I will no longer take heroin. It doesn't work. And same thing with this bhakti. It flows. It can't be stopped. Apratiyata, like the river to the sea. You can't put boulders before it. It just goes up and around and over. So he's saying this with his tongue. That it's just so much glory. He's almost like he feels he's lost control. He can't stop it. And the interesting part, what's going to happen is finally, you'll see what happened. He's going to tell his tongue, this is impossible to glorify Krishna. Lord Brahma, maybe that's the next verse. Oh, maybe it was in the purport. Lord Brahma, with his four heads, and Lord Shiva and Anantasesha, no one can sufficiently glorify God, because the definition of God is he has no limits. So his glories are always expanding. And it's reasonable that there's no end to God's glories, because you can't limit God. So why should you limit his glories? Just like Krishna is in Vrindavan, and every day there's a new forest. Every single day there's a new forest. A new forest to explore, a new forest to enjoy. Apurvita. Every time you see Krishna, it's unprecedented, because he's increasing in his beauty. Does Krishna need our love? I thought about this. I was meditating the other day. Does Krishna need our love? Why are we serving Krishna? Are we actually giving Krishna more pleasure by serving him? Yes. Why? Because Krishna enjoys love, so he can enjoy our love. And it adds to his pleasure, even though his pleasure is unlimited. But if his pleasure was unlimited, then how can it limit the pleasure we give to Krishna? Does that make sense? If Krishna's love is unlimited, then how can it limit the pleasure that we can give Krishna? So we actually can give Krishna pleasure. Does that mean Krishna's not full? No. That's how Krishna is full. That his love is always increasing, and he's relishing the increase of his love coming from the hearts of his devotees, his unlimited Ladini Shakti in their hearts. So the tongue can glorify Krishna. No one can sufficiently glorify Krishna. He said, stop. And then he comes to the conclusion, it's even better to glorify the devotees. I don't know if it's history or literary, but it's so beautiful. You get better glorify. And then he goes in to glorifying all the Pandavas, so that you see the love of those devotees who've attracted God to manifest himself as Krishna. So he stops his tongue and he bites his tongue. Not off, but not hurting, but he bites his tongue. Stop. Stop. And Narada, it's not, the tongue is not just talking, it's singing. I can't imagine how much nectar is in these two syllables, Krishna. When they dance upon my tongue, I want many tongues. When it enters into my ears, I want many ears. And when it enters into the courtyard of my heart, the senses become inert. I can't imagine how much nectar is in these two syllables, Krishna. Rasanāṁ te mahad-bhāgyam etad eva yat ihitam kinchit uchar yaivaisham tapriyanam sashaktinam. Dear tongue, he then acknowledged, this effort of yours attests to your great fortune. As far as you're able, just go on speaking something about those beloved devotees of Krishna. Purport, to avoid discouraging his tongue, Narada gave it some practical advice. If you cannot adequately praise Krishna, then at least try to praise his devotees. If you cannot describe the devotees' transcendental glories, then simply describe their activities. If you cannot describe everything about those activities, then just describe something. Even if you cannot speak with full realization, speak anyway. The attempt to say something will always be all auspicious. So that's what's beauty about bhakti. It's not just the result, it's the effort that's the bhakti. The result is up to Krishna. So even if you don't have any ability and you try, it can be pure devotion. And sometimes the best class is by someone who's very simple, doesn't have to be scholarly, but he's sincere. I remember when I first came to the temple in San Francisco, and I walked in the temple, and I saw Jayananda was preaching to some nuns and some, people from Ukraine or something, or Russia. And he was just talking like with such want to share this message with them. Narada proposed to his tongue, do better to glorify the Lord's devotees than glorify the Lord. Although the greatness of the devotees is ultimately indescribable, the Lord's greatness has no beginning or end, defeats all attempts at analysis and classification, and cannot be fully understood even by the Lord himself. To Narada, however, the Lord's devotees appear similar to human beings. He has seen them, so his tongue should be able to describe their deeds. If his tongue offends the devotees by making false statements about them, or by distorting accounts of their activities, the devotees will easily overlook those mistakes, because devotees are always compassionate to unfortunate persons. Therefore, Narada recommends glorifying the Vaishnavas as the best engagement for his tongue. My friend, before he begins his bhajan, he worships 200 Vaishnavas in his mind. All the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the associates of Krishna, and all the contemporary devotees. And I mentioned before, it's very beautiful, those who are swapaksha, like-minded, and vipaksha have a different view. He worships them all. He appreciates them all. Śrī Narada uvāca, mahanubhava-bhavatam tu tasmin pratisvakamya priyata vishesha bhavatsu tasyapi kripa vishesho trishtena niyeta sakena jivam. Narada continued, O great saintly Pandavas, is anyone bold enough to let his tongue describe the unique love for Krishna that each of you has, or the special mercy he bestows upon you? Feeling himself unfit, Narada indicates that only a shameless person would dare to attempt to elaborate on the greatness of each of the Pandavas. But Narada cannot stop because his tongue is reluctant to speak about anything else and refuses to remain silent. Vachavegam manasakrodavegam. Mata priteyam yadunandanasya snehardam avasana-vakyamekam akrura vaktrat pratamam nishamya prema pravahai nimamajya sadhya. Your mother Pritha once heard from the mouth of Akrura a single statement by Krishna, sweet with affection and meant to console her. As soon as she heard it, she plunged into a swiftly flowing current of prema. Prema pavaha, in a current of transcendental love. Nimamaja, she became submerged such immediately. From hearing of Yadunandana with sneha, with sweet affection, as soon as she heard, then ashvasana, consolation by that statement from his mouth, by hearing. And she became submerged in a flowing current of transcendental love. Vichittavakyai bahuda varudho spute ninam yat shravananina bhaksha bhavatsvapi sneha param param sa varaksha Krishna priyatam apeksha. She often lamented with poignant words that could shatter the hearts of anyone who heard them. She bore the burden of love for all of you, staying tied to you only because you were very dear to Lord Krishna. Okay, I think, let's see. Wow. Okay. Jaya probably went to her.
I'm still here, Raj.
3 minutes, yeah.
I was hanging on because I wanted to hear the end. I just really quickly, I loved what you said. I wrote it down. I hope I got it right about God is limitless. And so, but his limitlessness includes the fact that we can love him. I wrote down now exactly what you said. I'm not articulating well right now, but that was a mind blower. That's part of his limitlessness, that we can still also give him love. I just really love that so much.
Yeah, otherwise I figure you're chanting and you're trying to give God pleasure, but he's all full anyway, so what's the use, you know? But actually, no. When you think of the concept of God, you can't limit it by very definition. Either you believe in God or not. If you believe in God, there's no limit by any material laws that we know.
Mhm.
So his love also is always increasing, and he's never lacking it at the same time.
Beautiful.
Okay,
Thank you,
thanks.
Bṛhad.
Hey, anybody else say hello? Or make a comment?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Maharaj. Yeah, I do have a question, but just a couple things about Virendra Swarup Prabhu. Well,
Yeah.
for one thing, that one time, that one liner was hilarious. But the other thing is that I did hear about his illness, and I was very grateful that you put that positive spin on it. Because otherwise, I was just thinking, oh my God, none of us are safe. If like such a brain could, be suffering from his disease right now, I was like, but to think that his getting that disease is like Krishna's protection, in the form of his being, taken care of in Mayapur. So that was a nice
That's all it
perspective.
is. That's
Yeah,
all it is.
yeah, that's very,
It's dealing with
encouraging.
it very intimately
Huh?
and, and taking him to Mayapur for the rest of his life. Otherwise, I have to worry about leaving and all the other things that you got in the world. Everybody's got all that's it. No worries. You have no more responsibilities. Just to lay in the lap of Lord Chaitanya, chant Hare Krishna. That's it. It's the ultimate benediction. And it's Odarya Dham. It's the land of magnanimity. Your Bṛhad who told me, he said, yeah, we have to get together, but he's leaving soon to see him. So they're old friends.
Yeah. So, Maharaj, just one question. I think you reminded me of a question I had when you were saying that Narada Muni, um, he appreciated the devotees more than um, Krishna or something like that. It was reminding me of the same point I was just hearing, I think earlier today, that Uddhava also was appreciating association of the gopis more than the association that he had been having with Krishna. So, Krishna is our worshipable Lord. How is it that we appreciate the devotees even more than the person who is our
Because it's through the devotees that Krishna is revealed. So when you worship devotees at that level, your appreciation of Krishna increases. That's all it is. It's not a duality.
Uh-huh.
It's not a duality. It's just like in the Bhagavatam. I forgot when he says, now I will tell the glories of Krishna, but he tells the glories of the devotees right at the beginning. Because the devotee is just focused on Krishna. The pure devotee is just focused intensely on Krishna. So as soon as you associate Srinvata Swa-kata Krishna, no, Shushusho Shradhanasya Vasudeva Kata Rachi Sat Mahat Sevana Vipra Punya Tirtana Shevana. By serving the devotees, it's very purifying. It's great. Yeah, because the devotees are always talking about Krishna.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And all he's saying also, it's in the purport, it seems more accessible. It's how we serve Krishna.
Okay, thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. Anybody else say hello quickly?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, Tota Gopinath here.
Back home, huh?
I'm here. You look so happy at Govardhan right now.
Well, that's only because I shaved. I had that long beard until like yesterday. I didn't have any time to shave. And it's so funny. Son, they asked They asked Srila Dhanurdhara. They asked Srila Dhanurdhara. If somebody, everybody got a mute. They asked Leela Varshana's son what was her highlight. And she said, because she came to Mangalartik at my place without the mother. She's 5.5. She came with other devotees. She said, dancing and chanting with that old man. So Leela Varshana came to me and told me that. She used a Russian word. I said, what it means? She says, old man. And the kid was sitting in the corner and he went. But what I liked about the child, I just saw this thing, how in 2016 or this particular time, colleges tanked. And now their reputation is like ruined. It's like overnight, it's practically ruined universities because their purpose has become different than educating people. It's indoctrinating people mostly, in many ways. But the thing is, what changed is it says at that moment, the generation Gen Z came to school. And what it described about that generation is that it asked the people in the audience, like when I was young, my mother just opened the door and let me out. And it was before the age of 6. Because at the age of 6, I moved from Bensonhurst to Canarsie. So before the age of 6, I remember you just go outside and play. And these psychologists were describing, he did all kinds of studies, that's how the mind develops. And he just described it. I can't go into it now, but what I liked with her child is that the child had a lot of freedom. And it's kind of so healthy. And she sat quietly for like 16 classes. It's really nice. Anyway, okay, anybody else like to say hello?
Hare Krishna, Gurudev.
Jai Shri Radhe.
Thank you so much for the class. And I really liked when you said that phrase about happiness in another. It's like very short explanation of goal of life.
I would say that's true. But when I speak to you, there's some way it hurts. I can hear myself.
You're talking.
I can hear myself.
Oh, I don't know. I don't have headphones. Probably connection.
Okay, Haribo. Thank you. Jai. Anybody else say hello?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Lal Govinda.
And Bṛhad, thank you for class.
I sent him back. He didn't want to come back, Bṛhad.
I wouldn't blame him.
We were flying. We were really flying.
It looked great.
It was wonderful.
It was wonderful. And he would come and worship my beautiful deities in the morning. And the ladies from Russia really appreciated how the Jersey ladies trained their husbands.
It's quite a skill, right?
they were all sitting down and eating, and the men were running around serving, cleaning up, and it was such a nice. He really appreciated how the Jersey men would post and Govardhan and Jagannath Priya, who was managing, she was so happy because you usually have to chase people. She didn't have to ask them. They're so well trained. They set up everything everything. They served out everything. They cleaned up everything. They put everything away.
Good to hear.
What?
That's
I
good
just
to
want
hear.
you to know. I just
Yeah,
want you to give me a good report.
that's great. No, it looked like a great time. Quite
What?
jealous. It looked like a great time. Quite jealous.
It was, and you know, Parmananda is here with Kana,
Oh, nice. Yeah.
and their tour was great too.
Yeah.
They came to see me today with Madhu Puri and some people. They had a great tour too, so I like that. And I'm sitting here now, and then the people are just visiting me, and yeah, it's great. And we had this Orion cook we had in Govardhan. You just call them up and make them an order. I mean, anything.
Wow.
Fabulous, right? So it made it so easy, right? Great. Okay. Okay. Haribo. Okay. Anybody else say hello?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for class. Amla here.
Amala, we missed you.
I miss being there.
We missed you, especially in Puri. We didn't have any of the Jersey or upstate new guys in Puri, so
hopefully next year.
Hopefully. Okay.
Almost definitely if I have my way. So,
but I told the story. You know, we went to that temple last year, Chichola, right? And I was sitting there as the guru, and you were sitting next to me, and everybody's coming, paying obeisance to you. You got such a better profile than that.
Hare Krishna.
You had the real sign of advancement, the big Tulsi thing. It's real so Bṛhad. So Bṛhad. Yeah. Okay. Haribo.
Haribo.
Okay. Anybody else say hello?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, it's Vari here. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you. Missing you.
I'll be back. Jai Shirati is going to host some program. Let's have a nice turnout. And
Can't wait.
Okay. And maybe when I get back, we'll talk. We should catch up. Okay.
A lot to catch up on. Thank you. Hare
Okay.
Krishna.
Haribo. Good. Anybody else say hello?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, Bṛhad-bhāgavatāmṛta here.
Bṛhad, Haribo.
Hare Krishna.
When's the last time you were in Vrindavan?
2 years back.
Oh, 2 years back. Okay. Okay. Anybody else say hello?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much for the class.
You feel a little better with your arm now, huh?
Yes, it's open now.
Okay,
it's moving
great.
a bit. Yeah, it's much better. It's still not perfect, but much better. Thank you.
Okay, Haribo.
Haribo. Thank you very much.
Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Śrī here. Thanks for the class.
In separation from the Dham in Vancouver.
Yes.
I read mine.
I really miss the Dham. I hope
I can see it in your face.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you for class.
Indina Kunj, Haribo.
Hare Krishna.
We'll see you probably in Kartik, huh?
I hope so. I got my passport, so I hope I can come.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we'd like to see you. It would have been great if you were there in Puri and Govardhan again, and but maybe next year. Okay. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
Oh, Narmasaki, Haribo.
Haribo. Thank you for the class, Guru Maharaj.
Good. We should touch base soon, okay? Maybe next week, send me a message and let's just catch up.
Okay. Thank you, Guru Maharaj. I will.
Okay. Amala, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Gurudev. Hare Krishna.
Haribo, nice to see you. Haribo. Good. Okay, 1 or 2 more people and then I'll head out.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Śrī
Excited to see you.
Śrī Rupa, they were telling me how envious you were of everyone that was here.
Yes, it was very difficult, but I tried to be happy for them.
Yeah.
I'll have to hear all about it from Jai Subhadra.
Okay, she has a special gift for you that I sent. I don't know if she gave it to you.
I haven't seen her yet, but she texted me and told me about it. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
It's very confidential. Okay. Haribo. Okay. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Madhurya Radhika here.
Right.
Really great class.
You gave me a message. I'll have to listen to it soon. Okay.
Yes. Thanks, Maharaj.
Okay. Haribo.
Haribo.
Okay, we're gonna sign out now. Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaya